Alright, here we go. This is game number 6 on our mission to Mars. Complicated project where all the games run together. But I think this will be a fun one. On this one we're going to have, so we've landed safely on the planet. We're going to have our, let's start with a robot that is sent on a mission to gather needed materials from the surface of the planet and bring them safely back to the base camp. Okay, so let's start with, let's copy the code on block 5 to block 6. This one right here when the sprite is clicked. So now block 6 has this. Obviously we don't want to say start game 5, so let's do a new message. It says start game 6. And for our backdrop on this one, we actually need to draw it. Okay, so come to backdrop. Let's add a new one with the paint tool. Convert to a bitmap. Do the paint bucket. Let's start with a nice shade of red. Nice Mars color, I guess. And now we're going to draw using a paintbrush 2 with some little bit of lighter colors. Maybe that's a crater. Maybe that's a butte or something. I guess a crater would be more like in the ground. I don't know. And maybe we can add some darker colors too. And add some shadows to the hills. The drawings that are on the surface of the planet are not going to impact the coding at all, so it's just purely decorative. And I think you'll recall in one of my earlier videos I mentioned how if I drew something it wouldn't look very good. Well, here is evidence of that, as I always, whenever I try to draw artwork on my projects, that's where my projects usually die, because I spend so much time on them and I'm never happy with what I make. But I bet you guys could come up with something better than me, and hopefully you'll be proud of what you make. Here's the surface of Mars. I bet you never knew it looked so amazing. Let's do yeah, I want a gray here for the center. Okay, so I'm going to do a circle here, try to be right at the center. We're going to call that home base, kind of where our spaceship landed, and our robot is going to be sent out from there. So let's go to code, and on the backdrop code, let's duplicate this one, but then change it. When I receive start game 6, switch the backdrop to, and we didn't give this one a name, so come back here and let's rename this. It says backdrop 1. Let's call this Mars Surface. Alright, so it's Mars Surface. Come back to our code. When it receives start game 6, switch to that. Let's run it. Here's, did I say, yeah, there's 6. So here's the surface of Mars and all of its beautiful glory. Okay, so let's add a couple of sprites on here. We're going to add a robot, and there's 2 on here, but we want the happy, friendly looking one, this one. And we can animate this one later on, so let's get rid of the ones we wouldn't use, like that one with the backwards view, and maybe we'll get rid of that one too. Okay, so we're going to just have those 2 robot costumes, and this is definitely way too big. Maybe 20 is a little bit too small, so let's try 30. That's okay. Alright, so whenever we add this one, and let's call this game 6 robot, let's do the same code we always do. So under events, we're going to have 2 broadcasts that get received, and then we're going to have one that makes it hide and one that makes it show up again. So show when it receives one, hide when it receives the other one. And this one that says show needs to be start game 6. So when start game 6 happens, our robot's going to show up. And if we drew our base camp right in the middle, we should go under motion here and go ahead and set that at 0, 0. Okay, so now when you start game 6, our robot will begin right in the middle of the screen. Now let's add another sprite. So we need something for the robot to go collect. I kind of like this crystal one that has 2 different costumes. And we can go ahead and leave it at the normal size, but here's a mineral on the planet that a robot needs to go and collect. Okay. The crystals are going to appear kind of randomly around the screen. So let's go ahead and add let's copy this code over here. Start game there, and then clear everything here. So now Crystal 6 has the kind of the same code as our robot on this screen, but we don't want to go to 0, 0. Our crystal can go to a random position. Now let's have it go to the random position actually before it shows. So run the green flag, click on the 6, and you can see when the crystal appears on there. So every time the game 6 starts, this crystal will appear in a random spot. Okay, and what we're going to do now is have the robot go and get the crystal. Now the problem with the crystal appearing in a random spot is we would have a hard time coding move, turn, move, turn, move, turn to get that robot just to go straight to the crystal if the crystal's in a different spot, and the player's not going to know where that is. And so what we're going to do with this one, and this one I'll tell you too, the player doesn't really have much to do on this one. It's just going to sit and watch. But we're going to have the robot glide, and instead of a random position, it's going to glide to crystal. That reminds me, we need to come here and rename this. This is the game 6 crystal 1, because we're going to add some more crystals later. And so come back to our robot, glide 1 second to game 6 crystal 1. When we run that, no matter where the crystal is, the robot will go straight to it. And it'll take a second to get there. Okay, that's a pretty good start. You know what might be nice though is if we had a control statement here. Maybe we don't want that to happen right away. So let's wait a second and a half just so that the player has a chance to see what's happening before it goes there. Okay, I don't think we put that wait in the right spot. Let's have the wait happen after it goes to 0, 0, but before it starts gliding. Okay, so that'll give us a little bit of time for the crystal to go to its spot. And then the robot will go and get it. So what do we want to happen after it goes to the crystal? Well, let's go to motion, and let's glide 1 second back to 0, 0. And run that again. 1.5, go get the robot. Okay. You know what? Yeah, let's do that. That looks good. Now, it didn't actually pick up the crystal though, did it? Oh wait, so it goes to the crystal and it goes back to the base camp, but it doesn't actually do anything. So let's have this crystal here. Well, this crystal needs to react to the robot. Now, we could have a forever loop here that says run forever, ever, 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 ever. Check to see if it's touching the robot. Check to see if it's touching the robot. Check to see if it's touching the robot. There's not an event here that says when touching the robot, then do. There's not an option for that. So what we're going to do is another broadcast. So we know that after gliding 1 second to the game 6 crystal 1, it'll be at where that crystal is. So let's broadcast here and do a new statement and just call this crystal 1. Okay? And then on crystal 1, let's have that as an event that it could receive. When I receive crystal 1, what do we want that crystal to do? Well, I think it would make sense to look like the robot picked it up, to hide, and then the robot's going to take a second to get back over here. So then let's put a control statement in here to wait about a second. So I'm going to change that to 0.9. And then we're going to have it show again. So the robot's going to come pick it up. When it gets here, it's going to broadcast crystal 1. When the crystal receives crystal 1, it's going to hide, and it's going to wait 0.9 seconds. Then it's going to show itself. There's one bit of code we need to put in here under motion, because the robot's going to be going back to the center of the screen when it's about 0.9 seconds away. Would be a great time for the crystal to show back up. And so let's put this, after it waits 0.9 seconds, go to where the game... Oh, I gotta move this up again. Hold on. Go to where the game 6 robot is. Okay, so the robot's going to come down here, pick this up. The gem's going to disappear. When the robot's about back here, the crystal will reappear on the ground there. So let's run this. Click 6, wait 1.5 seconds, pick that up, and it drops it back on the ground. Okay, that's what we wanted to do. So it's going to go pick up that crystal, and every time it'll bring it back to the base camp. Let's do, after the robot is done collecting the crystals, let's do an event, broadcast clear everything, and broadcast main screen. Go to main screen. So now we can keep testing this as we go. Pick up that crystal and go back there. Well, let's put a control statement in here. Maybe, oh, not wait. Let's do the one we normally do. Say success for 2 seconds and then broadcast that. So run program 6, go get that crystal, bring it back, say success, and that's the end of that little game. Except we're not actually done, because what I want to do is add some more crystals. So come down here and duplicate that crystal, and let's change the costume on that, and then let's duplicate this crystal, and then change the costume back, and then duplicate this crystal. Obviously there's different ways to do this. I think this will just be kind of a nice pattern. Duplicate this one. Okay, so now we have 5 crystals. They'll all appear randomly, and then the robot will go and pick up one of them. So we need to change the robot's code and make it pick up the different crystals and do the correct broadcast for those. So what I want to do is we're going to take this off because that resets the game, and come here to where it says glide 1 second, duplicate this whole block of code. And we want to duplicate that 4 more times so that we can have it once for each crystal. Now there's different ways to do this. We're going to see for game 7 a really more complicated way to do something like this, but for the sake of being nice and easy, we're just going to leave like this. So we've already gone to game 6 crystal 1. Now we're going to glide to game 6 crystal 2. This one is going to go to, let's do this one, game 6 crystal 3. This one will go to game 6 crystal 4. This one will go to game 6 crystal 5. Here we're going to broadcast crystal 1. We're going to make a new message on this one that says crystal 2. And on this one for crystal 3, we're going to broadcast the new message crystal 3. On this one for crystal 4, we're going to do a new message crystal 4. And for the last one, we're going to broadcast the new message crystal 5. Now if we connect these, bloop, 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 there's only a little bit left we need to do. So if we hit the green flag and we click on 6, the robot has all of its code down, except the crystals don't. Oh man, and we don't want to say success every time. We got to get that out of there, except for the very, very end. So I'm going to get rid of all these success blocks, except for the one at the very end, and then we're going to put this clear everything and go to the main screen back at the bottom. So let's try that again. Program 6. It's going to go get that one. It's going to get that one. Going to get that one. Going to get that one. We needed to change our message events on the other 4 crystals, because on this one here, game 6 crystal 2, it needs to receive crystal 2. On crystal 3, we need to receive crystal 3. On crystal 4, it needs to be on when it receives crystal 4. And on crystal 5, when it receives crystal 5. So it should do 1 crystal at a time now. And success. And then it goes back to the main screen. Alright, that is it for this one. The next one, it'll be very similar, except our robot will be chased by evil robots. So make sure you do the next one too, because that one's a lot of fun.